Scattered across Russia are megastructures so massive, so precise, and so out of place that even today's archaeologists can't agree on who built them or how colossal stone chambers carved with surgical precision, perfect spirals built on frozen islands, mountains covered in balanced megaliths, and burial mounds so massive they look like man-made hills, hiding something we were never meant to uncover. These weren't built by empires or kingdoms or any civilization we can name. They were built by someone else thousands of years before history begins. Tonight, we're stepping into the shadows of Russia's most forbidden structures, and nothing about them is what you think.
Deep within the remote forests of southern Siberia, where fog drifts through endless mountain ridges and winter snow buries the land in a heavy white silence, lies a mountainside so baffling that it has unsettled archaeologists, geologists, and explorers for more than a decade. This is the site of the colossal megalithic blocks of Gornaya Shoria. At first glance, the formation looks like nothing more than a rugged natural cliff. But as you approach through the pine forest, the illusion fractures. Immense rectangular slabs begin to emerge, stacked like titanic bricks in a wall. Some stretch more than 20 meters in length and weigh hundreds, perhaps thousands of tons. They appear arranged in deliberate horizontal layers, mimicking the architecture of a civilization that should not exist in this part of the world. The scale alone is staggering. No known ancient culture, not even the builders of Baalbek or the pyramids, is confirmed to have moved stones this massive. Yet here on a remote Siberian mountain peak sit enormous monoliths aligned with uncanny geometric precision. Their edges form crisp corners and straight lines too clean to dismiss as random fractures. Photographers who first documented the site in the early 2000s captured images of rectangular blocks leaning like the remains of collapsed fortifications, terraces of polygonal stones, and surfaces so flat they seem machine-cut. Drone footage later revealed angular patterns that interlock like the cyclopean walls found in distant corners of the ancient world. Geological studies confirm the rock is Precambrian granite, extremely old and incredibly hard. Still, the surfaces show smooth planes and right angles rarely produced by natural erosion. Some blocks rest on smaller stones, creating gaps that resemble intentional foundation techniques seen at megalithic sites across the globe. If natural, this formation may be one of the most astonishing geological coincidences ever documented. If artificial, it suggests a level of prehistoric engineering beyond anything attributed to the ancient peoples of Siberia. Yet every explanation is shadowed by contradictions. Mainstream geologists argue the blocks result from weathering, exfoliation, and tectonic fracturing, natural processes that cause rock to peel away in sheets. But these processes usually produce chaotic, irregular shapes, not perfect 20-meter rectangles stacked like masonry. Tectonic forces can fracture granite, but rarely with edges so clean or in layers that resemble deliberate construction. Skeptics claim photographs exaggerate the block-like forms due to camera angles, but explorers who have climbed the site insist the blocks are even larger and more structured than the images suggest, with horizontal layers extending across entire sections of the cliff. Adding to the puzzle is the cultural context. In the period when the formation would have been altered, anywhere from the Neolithic to the Bronze Age, Siberia had no record of large settlements, monumental architecture, or technology capable of quarrying or transporting stones of this scale. No tools, carvings, or artifacts have been found. No settlements lie nearby. And yet the walls stand, too massive to ignore, too orderly to explain away.
These gaps invite speculation. Some researchers suggest the formation is an eroded pluton that fractured along unusually perfect joints, giving the appearance of design. Others propose an ancient landslide that stacked the slabs into their improbable arrangement. More radical theories suggest that Gornaya Shoria could be the weathered remains of a megalithic stronghold built by an unknown prehistoric culture with advanced stone-shaping techniques, perhaps connected to the mysterious architectural traditions seen in the Mediterranean and South America. Some theorists note the resemblance between these colossal blocks and the polygonal masonry of Peru, Japan, and Easter Island, proposing a lost worldwide tradition of massive stone engineering. Even more speculative voices argue that the structure could date back to a pre-glacial civilization destroyed in the cataclysms at the end of the last ice age. Others imagine origins older still, perhaps tens of thousands of years ago, during a time when mainstream archaeology insists no advanced societies existed. Some view the site as a collapsed fortress, others as an ancient quarry, and a growing number propose that unknown methods, heat, pressure, acoustic fracturing, could explain the smooth surfaces and sharp angles without requiring transportation of giant stones. Local legends add their own layer of mystery. Stories from the Altai region speak of giants who shaped mountains, of divine beings who dwelled in stone halls, and of ancient battles that carved the landscape itself. These myths fuel the fascination surrounding Gornaya Shoria. Yet, despite drone surveys, field expeditions, and endless debate, the site remains barely studied in any formal academic sense. No exhaustive excavation has been conducted, no comprehensive geological mapping published, no scientific consensus reached. Thus, the megaliths of Gornaya Shoria remain suspended between geology and archaeology, between natural marvel and impossible construction, an immense wall of stone gazing over the Siberian wilderness, a structure so vast, so precise, and so enigmatic that we still cannot say whether it was shaped by the forces of the earth or by a civilization erased from the memory of history.
High in the unforgiving mountains of Kabardino-Balkaria, where sheer cliffs slice into the sky and icy winds whisper across ancient stone, lies one of the most baffling megalithic mysteries in the entire Caucasus, the Kara Hora shaft. From a distance, it appears to be nothing more than a natural fracture in the mountain. But the illusion collapses the moment explorers reach it. What emerges is a perfectly cylindrical vertical pit dropping straight into the earth. Its walls unnaturally smooth, its opening sharply defined, as if crafted with intention and precision long before the first written records in this region. Early climbers who lowered lights into the shaft described an eerily perfect interior, surfaces too smooth, too straight, and too symmetrical to be the product of tectonic forces or erosion. Roughly 2 meters wide, the shaft plunges dozens of meters into absolute darkness. At the bottom, narrow horizontal passages branch outward like purposeful corridors carved deep into the mountain. Geological tests reveal that the surrounding rock is a tough mixture of limestone and volcanic deposits, yet the interior walls appear polished, marked with spiral striations that resemble the work of controlled cutting tools rather than the randomness of nature. Around the site, archaeologists uncovered carved steps leading toward the opening, along with flattened stone platforms that may have served as workspaces or staging areas. Massive blocks, seemingly detached from nearby cliffs, sit arranged in peculiar formations, some stacked, others fitted with uncanny precision, echoing megalithic structures found in other parts of the Caucasus.
Adding to the mystery, the shaft is aligned almost perfectly with a nearby ridge that receives the first light of sunrise during the equinoxes. This has led some researchers to suspect an astronomical design, perhaps linked to seasonal cycles or ritual observations. Yet, the deeper investigators dig, the stranger the contradictions become. no known culture in the North Caucasus, not the Mykop culture, the Koban culture, nor later steppe tribes, is believed to have constructed deep, perfectly cylindrical shafts lined with dressed stone. No inscriptions, tools, pottery, or signs of settlement have been found anywhere near the site. The engineering challenge alone borders on the impossible. Creating a narrow, uniform shaft through solid rock would require advanced tools, coordinated labor, rope systems, and surveying techniques far beyond what archaeologists associate with Bronze Age societies in the region. And still, the shaft is undeniably artificial. Some geologists have proposed water erosion along a natural karst as the cause, yet karst formations widen at the base and produce irregular scalloped walls, not the flawless cylindrical geometry seen here. Others suggest it might be the remains of a collapsed volcanic chimney, but the local geology rejects this explanation. Even if the shaft began naturally, the branching tunnels beneath it cannot be explained by natural processes. These inconsistencies have fueled a wide spectrum of theories. Some archaeologists cautiously propose a ritual descent chamber, a symbolic doorway into the underworld, used by an unknown shamanic culture. Others imagine it as an ancient water system, funneling runoff into underground reservoirs, though this fails to explain the polished walls or astronomical alignment.
More speculative interpretations imagine it as part of an underground complex, a ventilation or smoke shaft for chambers now collapsed or buried. Fringe researchers take it even further, suggesting an early attempt at deep mountain mining using unknown cutting technologies, potentially belonging to a forgotten civilization skilled in stone engineering. Comparisons have even been drawn to enigmatic vertical shafts found in Egypt and Guatemala, hinting at a possible pattern of prehistoric subterranean engineering. Local legends add yet another layer of intrigue. Elders speak of a passageway to the spirits, a sacred tunnel where ancient priests descended to commune with forces deep within the mountain. Another tale claims that giants carved the shaft to hide something of immense power below. Even modern hikers report unsettling acoustic effects, echoes that sound wrong, stones that take oddly long paths as they fall, as if bouncing through unseen hollows. Despite multiple expeditions, the full depth and structure of the Karelia shaft remain unknown. Flooding, unstable rock, and the extreme isolation of the site have halted every complete survey attempt. Today, the shaft stands as one of Russia's most perplexing ancient constructions, a vertical portal carved with unnerving precision, leading into a darkness that may still conceal chambers, tunnels, or secrets untouched for thousands of years. Whether it was a ritual gateway, an engineering marvel, a mining experiment, or the remnant of a civilization long erased from memory, Karelia remains a profound mystery. It echoes a timeless truth. Some structures carved into the earth hold stories so ancient, so deeply buried, that they continue to defy every attempt to understand them.
The dolmens of the North Caucasus stand quietly along the slopes and river valleys of southern Russia, silent stone sentinels scattered from the Black Sea coast to the foothills of the mountains. At first glance, they appear simple, almost modest, like tiny stone dwellings abandoned by an ancient people whose name has long been forgotten. But the closer one looks, the more impossible these megalithic structures become. What seems at first like a landscape dotted with low stone chambers quickly reveals itself as one of the densest concentrations of prehistoric megaliths in all of Eurasia. More than 3,000 dolmens lie precisely aligned to the cardinal directions, carved with extraordinary geometric accuracy, and fitted with circular entrance portals that seem far too advanced for the tools believed to exist 5,000 years ago. Each dolmen is constructed from enormous slabs of sandstone or limestone, some weighing several tons, shaped into perfectly flat surfaces and assembled with joints so flawless that even modern instruments struggle to detect the tolerances. Excavations show the builders prepared the ground with meticulous care. Foundation stones laid on beds of crushed gravel, carved drainage channels to keep the interiors dry, and pathways leading to each structure as if they were intended for ritual, not merely burial. Inside, many chambers are circular or polygonal, sealed with heavy stone plugs, and some bear intricate spiral carvings or raised knobs, symbols of an unknown language. Radiocarbon dating from nearby settlements places their construction in the early Bronze Age, roughly 3000 to 2000 BCE, older than most European megalithic tombs. Yet the greatest mystery is the stunning uniformity of their design across vast distances. Such consistency implies a shared blueprint or centralized cultural knowledge that should not have existed among scattered mountain tribes. Archaeologists note similarities to dolmens in Brittany, Karelia, and India. But the North Caucasus structures stand apart for their architectural precision, their unusual round portals, and traces of pigment within the chambers, evidence that they once glowed with painted light from torches during rituals. Some dolmens were built using massive blocks quarried kilometers away and dragged uphill over terrain so steep it challenges even modern machinery. Others rest on cliff edges, overlooking entire valleys, forming alignments that may correspond to solstices or star paths. Still, contradictions persist. Human remains found inside differ drastically in age, often separated by centuries from the dolmen's construction. Some chambers contain no burials at all, and many complex dolmens sit in regions where no settlements ever existed, raising the question, who built them and for what purpose? Geological surveys show that some dolmens required stoneworking techniques far beyond simple chiseling. The circular portals have uniform curvature that may indicate the use of drilling or rotary tools, while multi-slab dolmens demonstrate an understanding of leverage and load distribution unexpected for Bronze Age pastoralists. Another puzzle lies in the archaeological timeline. The dolmens appear suddenly, without evolutionary stages or earlier prototypes, as if a fully developed architectural tradition emerged overnight and vanished just as quickly. More enigmatically, unusual magnetic anomalies have been recorded around several dolmens. Some scientists attribute them to natural minerals, while others argue their alignment with dolmen layouts is too precise to be coincidence, suggesting the builders may have chosen locations for energetic or geomantic reasons. These contradictions fuel competing theories. Some researchers believe the dolmens were ancestor shrines meant for symbolic offerings rather than bodies. Others think the round portals were designed as astronomical sightlines to track celestial events. Fringe theorists point to the eerie acoustics. When a voice or hum passes through the portal, vibrations amplify inside the chamber, as if the structure were built to manipulate sound. A few archaeologists propose that dolmens served as ceremonial checkpoints along long-distance trade routes between the Black Sea and the Near East. More imaginative interpretations link them to Mediterranean Cyclopean engineering traditions, proposing that an unknown culture with advanced stoneworking skills passed through the Caucasus and left behind this architectural signature. Others suggest the circular portals functioned as early pressure equalizing systems, and that the sealed chambers may have been used for fermentation, storage, or ritual sensory deprivation. Local legends tell a different story altogether. They speak of giants who built these stone houses in a single night, of spirits passing through the round openings to guard the mountains, and of ancient healers who used the dolmens as places of power, sites where the earth's energy could be amplified. Yet with every excavation, the mystery only deepens. These structures belong to a culture with no surviving language, no known monuments besides these silent stone chambers, and no clear connection to the later peoples of the region. And so, the dolmens of the North Caucasus remain one of Russia's most enduring enigmas. Thousands of perfectly engineered stone boxes scattered across mountains and forests, crafted with inexplicable precision by a civilization we still cannot identify. Aligned to forces and ideas we no longer understand, they stand as quiet reminders that entire chapters of human knowledge and engineering may have unfolded outside the official timeline, waiting in the hills to be decoded.
Deep within the quiet waters of Lake Turgoyak in the Ural Mountains, where morning mist clings to the shoreline and the air feels ancient even in summer, lies Vera Island, a small forested rise of granite that shelters one of Russia's most enigmatic megalithic complexes. A place that feels less like an archaeological site and more like the remains of a forgotten sanctuary carved directly into the bones of the earth. At a distance, the island looks unremarkable, just scattered boulders and simple stone shelters. But as you follow the narrow paths beneath low branches, a different reality slowly reveals itself. Massive granite chambers carved with precision, narrow corridors aligned to exact angles, roof slabs weighing dozens of tons placed atop upright stones with a level of engineering far beyond what Bronze Age cultures of the Urals are believed to have possessed. Local historians have long referred to the site as an ancient temple complex, but the deeper you explore, the more the mystery grows. The scale, geometry, and construction techniques do not match any known culture in the region. Excavations have revealed 3 primary megalithic structures, known simply as Megalith 1, 2, and 3. Each is built from enormous granite slabs shaped into walls, ceilings, and corridors. Some stones exceed 6 meters in length, cut with edges so straight and flat they seem impossible to attribute to small pastoral tribes. Inside, researchers found polished floors, carved niches, and traces of red ochre pigment, signs that these chambers were designed for ritual use, not ordinary living. Megalith 1 resembles a subterranean sanctuary with a long corridor precisely oriented toward the rising sun on specific days of the year. Megalith 2 contains a carved passage designed to funnel sunlight into the inner chamber at select seasonal moments. Megalith 3 uses massive naturally split slabs that were shaped and reassembled with startling accuracy, as if guided by advanced knowledge of stoneworking. Around the island lie artificial terraces, huge retaining walls built from multi-ton blocks, forming leveled platforms like ceremonial stages or ancient observation sites. Radiocarbon dating of charcoal traces suggest human activity here around 3,500 to 4,000 years ago. But instead of solving the mystery, the dates deepen it. For during this era, Bronze Age cultures of the Urals were small, mobile, and technologically simple, leaving behind pottery shards and basic burial sites, not monumental stoned architecture. Nowhere else in the region is there anything remotely comparable. This contradiction raises troubling questions. If local tribes built the site, why is there no evolutionary path of construction? Why are there no earlier prototypes, no surrounding settlements, no supporting infrastructure? Why does the site appear fully formed, as if an advanced group arrived briefly, constructed a megalithic sanctuary, and vanished without leaving descendants? Geological studies complicate the story even further. The stones used in the chambers are made of extremely dense granite,
and quarry marks on the island suggest builders cut and shaped the rock directly from the bedrock. Such work would require metal tools, yet metallurgical evidence for bronze or copper tools in the Urals at this period is extremely limited. Some interior surfaces are so smooth they look polished, a technique difficult to explain with the crude tools believed available at the time. Another unresolved puzzle is the precise astronomical alignment. Several passages and openings align with solstices, equinoxes, and lunar positions, implying a sophisticated understanding of celestial cycles. Yet no nearby archaeological site shows similar knowledge. Why would this isolated island possess an architectural and astronomical tradition unmatched by any other culture in the region?
These contradictions have opened the door to layers of speculation. Some scholars argue the site belonged to an early Uralic-speaking culture that later disappeared. Others suggest it was a spiritual center where shamans encoded celestial knowledge in stone. More adventurous theories propose Vera Island was part of a vast megalithic network stretching across Eurasia, linked to Caucasus dolmens, Karelia's stone rows, and the megaliths of Atlantic Europe. Some researchers propose the structures were designed for acoustics, pointing to the eerie reverberations inside the chambers. Fringe theories imagine a pre-Ice Age civilization whose forgotten knowledge resurfaced briefly here before fading again. Local legends add their own layer of mystery. Stories of stone priests who performed sacred rites, of chambers carved with fire and light, and of hidden relics buried within the granite halls. None of these tales are proven, yet the site's atmosphere keeps them alive. Vera Island simply feels different. Too precise, too deliberate, too anomalous to dismiss as ordinary Bronze Age craftsmanship. And so, despite surveys, excavations, and decades of debate, the Vera Island megalithic complex remains one of Russia's most enduring prehistoric enigmas. A cluster of ancient stone sanctuaries carved with unknown tools by an unknown culture for reasons lost to time. A silent island in a mist-covered lake, whispering hints of forgotten chapter of human history, one that may have flourished briefly and vanished, leaving behind temples that still wait patiently for someone to understand their purpose.
Mount Vodivara. Deep within the remote forests of Karelia, where endless spruce forests climb toward a cold gray sky and silent lakes breathe mist into the air, rises Mount Vodivara, a barren, wind-carved summit so strange that many visitors say it feels like stepping into another world. A place where nature and ancient engineering blur together until you can no longer tell where the mountain ends and something far older begins. From a distance, Vodivara appears ordinary, but the higher you climb, the more the landscape twists into impossibility. Enormous boulders balanced delicately on pebble-sized stones, impossibly straight ridges of rock cutting across the slopes, fissures that look like carved staircases, and clusters of megaliths arranged in patterns too deliberate to be random. More than 1,600 sacred sedas, ritual stones of the ancient Sami, dot the summit. Many rest on perfectly chosen pivot points, swaying slightly with the wind and producing faint, vibrating tones. Across the mountaintop lie deep rectangular fractures in the bedrock, stretching for tens of meters, forming terraces, platforms, and corridors that resemble the ruins of a collapsed stone sanctuary. Archaeological surveys uncovered stone circles, alignments pointing directly to solstice sunsets, and bizarre step-like formations carved into the granite. Radiocarbon tests reveal human presence here more than 4,000 years ago, and Sami oral tradition describes Vodivara as a sacred site, where shamans traveled between the world of the living and the realm of spirits. Yet the deeper researchers look, the more contradictions emerge.
Geologists argue that most formations were created by a massive earthquake around 9,000 years ago, shattering the mountain into slabs and scattering debris that merely looks artificial. But this explanation fails to account for the carefully balanced stones resting on polished boulders, the perfect astronomical alignments, or the smooth cut-like faces some visitors swear look carved by tools. Other features, deep drilled holes, right-angled blocks, and flat stone surfaces, seem almost impossible even with modern equipment. Another puzzle. No other mountain in the region has anything remotely comparable. If this were natural chaos, why does Vardavara resemble a megalithic ritual complex? And why is the summit strangely barren, nearly devoid of soil or vegetation, while the surrounding landscape thrives? Some researchers believe this pattern points to intentional clearing or ancient construction on a massive scale. These inconsistencies have fueled decades of speculation. Some archaeologists cautiously suggest that Neolithic or Bronze Age cultures enhanced natural formations, transforming the mountaintop into a sacred ritual landscape. Others believe Vardavara served as a shamanic pilgrimage center, where the unique acoustics of hollow fractures amplified drums and chanting, helping shamans enter trance states. More adventurous theories propose that the site functioned as a prehistoric observatory, with stone alignments marking celestial events. Fringe researchers compare the formations to megalithic sites thousands of kilometers away, hinting at shared knowledge or a forgotten northern tradition of sacred stone engineering. There are even claims that the balanced stones reflect ancient practices involving earth energies, geomagnetic forces, or seismic tuning, supported by unusual electromagnetic readings recorded near certain formations. The boldest theories imagine Vardavara as the eroded remains of a prehistoric temple complex, built by an advanced culture whose memory was wiped out by ice, earthquakes, or deep time itself. Local folklore only deepens the mystery.
Karelian legends say Vardavara is a place where the boundary between worlds grows thin. Some stories claim the dead wander its slopes on fog-choked nights. Others describe shamans climbing the mountain to leave the physical world entirely. Modern visitors report sudden silence, disorientation, strange emotions, and the unsettling sense of being watched. Photographs often capture fog banks that appear, swirl, and vanish without warning. Even today, many locals avoid the mountain, insisting it holds a power that does not belong to humans. And despite surveys, mapping projects, and satellite studies, Vardavara refuses to offer clear answers. The stones balance but never fall. The alignments exist but defy straightforward interpretation. The fractured geometry seems both natural and impossibly engineered. Thus, Mount Vardavara remains one of Russia's most haunting archaeological enigmas, a wind-swept summit scattered with balanced stones, mysterious corridors of shattered rock, and echoes of ancient rituals. A place where geology masquerades as architecture, where lost cultures left traces but no explanations, and where the mountain's silence whispers the same unanswered question. Were these patterns shaped by nature, by forgotten builders, or by something that lies between the two? Bolshoi-Zansky Island lies in the Barents Sea of the Arctic Ocean, part of the Franz Josef Land archipelago in Russia. With icy waves rippling on the horizon and drifting mist draping like a living veil over the arid tundra, Bolshoi-Zansky Island is so pristine and unspoiled that many describe it as a world suspended outside of time. Yet, this barren landscape harbors one of Russia's most enigmatic archaeological wonders, a vast field of ancient stone labyrinths arranged with astonishing geometric precision. At first glance, these spiraling pebbles may appear whimsical, as if painted on the ground by a wandering artist. But once you enter and follow their long, winding paths that stretch for tens of meters, their true scale and thoughtful design become apparent. They are monumental structures, some over 20 meters wide, built from hundreds of carefully selected stones, arranged in smooth, twisting lines that always lead to a single central point. The island is covered with more than a dozen major labyrinths, accompanied by stone mounds, platforms, and straight lines of stone. Together, these labyrinths form a unique archaeological complex in northern Europe. Evidence suggests that many of these labyrinths were built during the Late Stone Age or Early Bronze Age, around 3,000 to 4,000 years ago, although some evidence points to earlier origins. Builders collected water-polished stones from the shore and transported them across uneven terrain to create designs that remain remarkably consistent from one labyrinth to the next. This consistency suggests shared traditions, or perhaps a central cultural knowledge. These are not random swirls. Each labyrinth has a mathematical purpose: paths of equal width, inverted curves, entrances aligned with the sea or sunrise, or specific towers. Excavations have revealed traces of charcoal and burnt bones at their centers, indicating ritual fires or ceremonial offerings.
Other findings reveal connections to the natural landscape. Some labyrinths appear to align with tidal pools or coastal markers, implying a deep understanding of the sea's rhythm. But as researchers uncover more evidence, the contradictions deepen. There is no sign of permanent settlement on the island from the era of construction. No dwellings, no storage pits, no major hearths. This suggests people traveled here strictly for ceremonial or symbolic purposes. Yet what those rituals were remains a mystery. These Arctic labyrinths differ sharply from the maze-like designs of Mediterranean cultures. They do not confuse or entrap. Instead, they guide the walker on a slow, deliberate journey toward the center and back again, almost like a ceremonial dance or spiritual passage. Some scholars believe they were used for rites of passage or seasonal rituals. Yet the presence of many labyrinths clustered together, each subtly different in orientation, points to something far more complex than simple ceremonies. Another mystery lies in their widespread similarity. Nearly identical labyrinth designs appear not only across Scandinavia, but also on the Kola Peninsula and distant Baltic islands, suggesting a vast network of maritime cultures connected by shared symbols and knowledge. But the builders of the Solovetsky labyrinths left no inscriptions, no art, no burials, nothing to identify who they were. This cultural silence has opened the door to endless debate.
With traditional explanations failing, speculation spreads. Some archaeologists believe the labyrinths functioned as cosmic maps, teaching the movements of stars and seasons through walking meditation. Others see them as symbolic pathways for guiding the dead into the spirit world. A few propose that they were ritual tracks for solstice ceremonies, echoing the cycles of nature. More esoteric interpretations imagine them as tools for trance induction. Slow walking along the spiraled paths, matching breath to rhythm, could trigger altered states of consciousness, allowing shamans to enter visions or communicate with the unseen. Fringe theorists go further still, claiming the layouts match patterns of energy vortices, implying the island was an ancient northern power point for a spiritually advanced culture. Another theory suggests these spirals are abstracted navigation charts used by prehistoric sailors, stone-encoded maps representing currents, coastlines, or star routes across the northern seas. Local folklore adds yet another layer. Fishermen and monks once spoke of the stone games of the old people, insisting the labyrinths were walked to ensure safe voyages or imprison malevolent spirits within the winding paths. Some tales claim they were built to summon winds or calm the ocean.
Others whisper that the spirals echo the paths of sea serpents, or mythical creatures said to inhabit the Arctic waters. Yet despite countless studies and stories, the island remains silent. The builders vanished long ago. The labyrinths endure, untouched for millennia except by wind, moss, and the occasional traveler who dares to walk their ancient paths. And so the stone labyrinths of Bolshoi Zayatski Island remain one of the Arctic's greatest enigmas, vast prehistoric spirals created with purpose but without explanation. Structures aligned with forces we no longer measure, built by people we no longer know, standing on a lonely island where time itself seems to coil and fold like the labyrinths beneath our feet, looping endlessly between certainty and wonder, never revealing their true purpose.
In the vast grasslands of the southern Urals, where steppe winds race endlessly across open plains and the horizon stretches impossibly far, lies one of the most enigmatic ancient settlements ever uncovered, Archaim, often called the Russian Stonehenge. This Bronze Age fortified city remained hidden for millennia until its rediscovery in 1987, just days before it would have been submerged beneath a planned reservoir. What first appeared as a simple circular mound soon revealed itself to be one of the most sophisticated and geometrically precise ancient urban layouts ever found. Archaim is a double-walled circular stronghold engineered with an astonishing level of planning, architecture, and astronomical knowledge. Excavations revealed two concentric timber and clay walls anchored by stone foundations, a ring of nearly identical dwellings arranged with mathematical precision, a central plaza filled with ritual pits, and a network of streets and drainage channels that demonstrate advanced understanding of hydraulics and urban design. Beneath the ground, archaeologists discovered furnaces, metallurgical workshops, and ceramic kilns, evidence of highly skilled craftsmanship. Bronze tools and chariot fittings linked the settlement to early Indo-European cultural traditions, suggesting a society far more advanced than the pastoral tribes previously assumed to inhabit the region. Even more extraordinary is the city's alignment. Archaim is oriented with remarkable accuracy to solstices, equinoxes, and lunar cycles. Certain doorways and windows frame specific celestial events, while the circular streets seem to echo the movements of the heavens themselves, turning the entire city into a massive, habitable astronomical instrument.
But the deeper researchers dug, the more contradictions emerged. The people associated with Archaim, often linked to the Sintashta culture, were believed to be mobile pastoralists living in seasonal camps, not architects of sophisticated circular cities. No similar settlements exist before or after Archaim, making it appear as if a highly advanced culture emerged suddenly and vanished just as quickly. Signs of deliberate burning add to the mystery. Walls were blackened, roofs collapsed inward, and debris patterns indicate the city was destroyed in a controlled fire, likely by its own inhabitants. But why would a people capable of such engineering feats destroy their own masterpiece? Artifacts present further puzzles. Some pottery styles appear local, while others resemble designs from cultures thousands of kilometers away, hinting at long-distance trade or migration networks that stretch beyond conventional historical timelines. Metallurgical analysis shows advanced alloying techniques, high-quality bronze with precisely controlled tin levels, unexpected for a society supposedly lacking cities. Even more baffling, the entire settlement appears to have been designed in advance, with measurements suggesting familiarity with proportional systems and possibly even early geometric knowledge.
Yet no written plans, no earlier prototypes, and no inscriptions survived to explain how such knowledge was acquired. These gaps in the archaeological record have sparked a wide range of theories. Some scholars propose Archaim was a ceremonial center for an early Indo-Iranian priesthood, its celestial alignments used to guide rituals, agricultural calendars, and cosmological observances. Others argue it was a training site for elite chariot warriors, potentially a cradle of Proto-Indo-European culture whose innovations later spread across Eurasia. More speculative ideas imagine Archaim as a prototype ideal city, built according to sacred geometric principles passed down through priestly lineages that later influenced Persian, Indian, and Scythian cosmologies. Fringe interpretations go further, comparing Archaim's layout to mandala patterns described in ancient Vedic texts or to astronomical charts embedded in early mythologies. Some claim the settlement reflects advanced surveying techniques or lost mathematical systems predating Greek geometry. Others propose it was one of many ring cities scattered across the Eurasian steppe, most still buried or unrecognized. A small but passionate group believes Archaim served as an ancient observatory built by a culture with unusually advanced knowledge of celestial mechanics, possibly tracking precession, eclipse cycles, or long-term astronomical patterns long before they appear in the historical record. Local beliefs add their own mystique. Modern visitors travel to Archaim seeking spiritual energy, claiming its circular form channels cosmic forces or deepens meditation. Legends speak of ancient sages who built the city as a gateway between the earthly and celestial realms. Others imagine it as the birthplace of mythical Aryan ancestors described in ancient texts. Yet, despite decades of study, Archaim keeps its secrets close. A city planned with extraordinary foresight, built with advanced engineering, aligned to the heavens, inhabited briefly, then intentionally burned, and all without leaving behind a written language or a surviving culture to explain its purpose. Today, Archaim stands as one of Russia's greatest archaeological enigmas, a perfect circle etched into the lonely steppe, a city that rose and vanished like a mirage, and a haunting reminder that within humanity's Bronze Age past, there may have been civilizations with knowledge and mysteries far deeper than we have ever imagined.